Are you ready?
Yeah. About 300 and 300.
Join the gang and let the bidding begin.
This is why we do this.
You think you know Storage Wars with the lockers, the bidding wars, and the wild finds, but there's a lot that never made it to TV. Storage Wars became A&E's biggest hit back in 2010, pulling in over 2.4 million viewers per episode and basically creating an entire TV genre of auction shows.
I spent $1,000 on this locker because I just had to have that pink scooter. Now this one's going in my personal collection.
But here's the thing most fans don't know. Almost everything about the show was carefully orchestrated behind the scenes. There were off-camera million-dollar finds, and when one cast member tried to blow the whistle on it all, things got messy real fast.
Hey, say it. How much? 115, 115 bucks. 125, 115, 135, Mary. 145, sir. 135 there. Come on, security!
This is the story of how a reality show about abandoned storage units became one of reality TV's most controversial productions, complete with lawsuits, identity theft, and a multi-million-dollar discovery that nobody was supposed to find. The setup. Storage Wars wasn't supposed to be Storage Wars at all. Executive producer Tom Beers originally got the idea from watching Dan and Laura Dotson, a husband and wife auctioneer team who'd been in the storage auction business for years. Dan had been around auctioneering since he was 11, learning from his grandfather, who was a cattle auctioneer in the Ozarks. The Dotsons ran a legitimate auction business in Riverside, California, and Beers thought their world would make for interesting TV. So he built a show around them, but he needed interesting personalities to bid on the units. And that's how we got the cast. Dave Hester, the loud-mouthed antagonist who'd shout, "Yoop!" at every auction. Jared Schultz and Brandy Passante, the young couple trying to stock their thrift store. Daryl Sheets, the gambler, who'd been doing this for decades. And Barry Weiss, the eccentric millionaire collector who showed up in custom cars and West Coast chopper sunglasses, bringing psychics to auctions just for fun. Barry wasn't even a professional storage buyer when he joined the show. He'd made his fortune in the family produce business with his brother and retired wealthy. He literally had never bought a storage unit before the show started. Beers just thought he'd make good TV. And he was right. Barry became the breakout star, the guy everyone tuned in to watch. The format was simple. Show up at storage facilities, bid on units, then reveal what's inside and estimate how much money you made or lost. Easy to understand, fun to watch, and apparently very easy to manipulate. The whistle gets blown. Dave Hester was one of the original cast members, and by all accounts, he took the bidding seriously. He'd been in the storage auction game for years before TV cameras showed up. So when he started noticing weird things during filming, he paid attention. First, there were the finds. Whenever Hester won a bid, producers would mysteriously guide him towards certain boxes in the unit. They'd suggest he open specific containers, or they'd ask him to move things around until, surprise, he'd discover something valuable. Like the time he found a pile of newspapers announcing Elvis Presley's death, or when he uncovered a BMW minicar buried under trash. These weren't accidents, they were setups. Hester started complaining to the network and producers. He called the practice salting, planting valuable items in storage units before the auctions to make the show more dramatic. According to Hester, producers would even go so far as to stage entire storage units from scratch. They'd work with storage facility owners to create completely fake lockers filled with interesting stuff that was never actually abandoned by anyone. Now, what did the network do? Well, they fired him. So in 2012, Hester sued A&E and Original Productions for wrongful termination, and his lawsuit laid out everything he'd witnessed behind the scenes. The legal filing was explosive. Hester claimed that producers regularly planted valuable items owned by cast members into lockers, then paid the cast members rental fees for using their own stuff on the show. Receipts proved it. A&E had literally been billing themselves for borrowing cast members' valuables to plant in units. The lawsuit also alleged that interviews were scripted, auction scenes were staged ahead of time, and the network would even finance storage unit purchases for certain cast members who couldn't afford to buy the units themselves. Basically, the producers were picking winners and losers before the auctions even happened. And interestingly, A&E didn't really deny it. Instead, their legal defense argued that what they were doing was totally legal because Storage Wars wasn't technically a game show. Game shows have to be fair and honest, thanks to laws from the 1950s quiz show scandals. But reality shows? Those are considered entertainment protected by the First Amendment. They can stage whatever they want. The producer admits it. The lawsuit created enough noise that executive producer Tom Beers eventually addressed the allegations publicly. During a 2012 panel discussion about reality TV, Beers basically admitted that, yeah, they were manipulating things, but not as much as Hester claimed. Beers confirmed that they wrote about half the cast members' lines during interview segments. "I have to admit, there's some writing involved," he said. "We do it in Storage Wars. I'm so tired of narration driving story." So those clever one-liners and witty observations were mostly fed to the cast by producers. As for planting items in units, Beers' explanation was careful. He denied salting lockers with fake valuables, but admitted they would occasionally move items from one storage unit to another. His exact words, "Maybe one piece shows for one auction container, storage locker to another, you know, but that's as far as we'll go." That's still staging. If you're taking something from one real abandoned unit and putting it in another real abandoned unit to make the reveal more interesting, you're manipulating what people find. But Beers presented it as if this was somehow different from what Hester was accusing them of. Cast member Brandy Passante later confirmed that there were lots of boring empty units that never made it onto the show. "I don't think the show really highlights the bad ones as much," she said, "but it definitely happens." Which makes sense. Nobody wants to watch 22 minutes of people buying lockers full of stained mattresses and broken furniture. But it also confirms that the show was heavily edited to only show the dramatic stuff, creating a false impression of how profitable storage auctions actually are. The money game. Here's something else Hester's lawsuit revealed. Exactly how much money the cast was making. And it was way more than most people expected. According to the court documents, cast members were earning between $15,000 and $25,000 per episode. Some of the bigger names were pulling in even more. With seasons averaging around 23 to 26 episodes, that meant cast members were making somewhere between $345,000 and $345,000, $650,000 per season just for showing up. Hester himself reported earning $829,500 for one season. That's not counting whatever profits he made from actually selling the items he found in storage units. But here's where things get really interesting. The lawsuit also alleged that the show's producers paid for Brandy Passante to get breast enhancement surgery to make the show more appealing. The claim was right there in the legal filing, that A&E had funded cosmetic surgery for a cast member to boost the show's sex appeal and ratings. Neither Brandy nor the network ever publicly confirmed or denied this specific allegation. It just sort of hung out there in the court documents, adding to the growing pile of evidence that Storage Wars was less about authentic treasure hunting and more about manufactured entertainment. The lawsuit eventually got settled behind closed doors. The terms were never made public, but here's what we do know. Hester was ordered to pay A&E's legal fees, but a judge also ruled he could proceed with his wrongful termination claim. Then quietly, everything got resolved, and even more quietly, Dave Hester returned to Storage Wars a few seasons later. When reality gets too real. The biggest finds on Storage Wars weren't always what you'd expect. Sure, there were valuable antiques and collectibles, but sometimes what people found was genuinely disturbing. Daryl Sheets once opened a storage unit and found a human corpse wrapped in plastic. He immediately reported it to authorities, who discovered that the previous owner of the unit had murdered his wife and hidden her body in the locker. Then there were the incredible finds that seemed too good to be true. In the Season 3 finale, Daryl Sheets paid $3,600 for a storage unit and discovered it was filled with over 300 paintings by Mexican artist Frank Gutierrez. When he brought in an art expert to appraise the collection, they valued it at around $300,000. That became the biggest on-camera find in Storage Wars history. Sheets later revealed on Twitter that he'd tracked down Frank Gutierrez himself and was returning some of the artist's personal items that had been in the unit. It was a rare, wholesome moment in a show that was increasingly being exposed as staged. But even that find has been disputed. Some art experts questioned the $300,000 valuation, suggesting it might have been inflated for dramatic effect. And given everything else we know about how the show operates, it's not unreasonable to wonder if producers had a hand in making sure that particular unit looked extra valuable on camera. Other major finds included a collection of newspapers from the day Elvis died, valued at $90,000. Dave Hester found vintage vending machines worth $27,000. Barry Weiss discovered a collection of 30 complete engines that he sold for $10,000. And Jared and Brandy found a collection of vintage toys worth $12,800. But none of those came close to the off-camera discoveries, and that's where things get really wild. The $7 million discovery. Now let's talk about the wildest Storage Wars story that didn't actually happen on the show. In 2018, Dan Dotson, the auctioneer, was approached by a woman at an event who told him an absolutely insane story about a friend of hers. Her friend had bought a storage unit at one of Dotson's auctions for $500. Nothing special, just a regular unit that went unpaid. When the buyers started going through it, they found a safe. They called a locksmith to open it. The first locksmith couldn't do it. They called a second locksmith. When that person finally cracked it open, the safe contained $7.5 million in cash. Let that sink in. $7.5 million in cash in an abandoned storage unit that sold for $500. When the original owners realized their storage unit had been sold, they immediately had their attorney contact the buyer. The offer, $600,000 to return the money. The buyer countered. They eventually settled on $1.2 million. The buyer would return the $7.5 million in exchange for keeping $1.2 million as a reward. The buyer took the deal. Dotson shared this story on social media, and he and his wife Laura discussed what they would have done in that situation. Laura admitted she'd be worried. "I don't feel like it'd be clean money," she said. "If they were offering it to me then, I would say, all right then. They washed it, they made it clean, and I'll accept that $1.2 million. Dan agreed. $7.5 million is a lot of money, he said, but that's a lot of running, too. The buyer turned down the chance to keep all that money because they knew the original owners would come looking for it. They settled for $1.2 million because it was safer than keeping the full amount. That's not the feel-good treasure hunt story Storage Wars sells to viewers. That's people making calculated decisions about illegal money and self-preservation. The Dotsons also mentioned another off-camera find. Someone bought a unit for around $2,000 and found a blue Rubbermaid tote filled with Spanish gold doubloons and pieces of 8, all over 200 years old. That haul was worth an estimated $500,000. The whole incident never made it onto the show, It happened off camera, in real life, where the stakes are actually real and the consequences actually matter. The Young Guns fall apart. Jared Schultz and Brandy Passante were Storage Wars' power couple. Nicknamed the Young Guns, they were fan favorites, a regular couple trying to make it work, running a thrift store called Now and Then, raising 2 kids together. Their constant bickering and opposing personalities made for great TV. The show originally approached Jared to appear and use his thrift store as a location. But when producers showed up, Brandy was there working the counter, dressed to impress. They asked if she could be on the show too, and Jared joked, "Do you think she wore that dress for nothing?" Brandy became one of the most popular cast members. In 2014, at the height of Storage Wars' popularity, Jared and Brandy even got their own spin-off. Brandy and Jared, Married to the Job. It lasted 8 episodes. Here's the thing, though. Despite the show's title, they were never actually married. They were long-term partners who shared a business and 2 children, Cameron and Peyton, but they never legally tied the knot. And in November 2018, they broke up, but they kept it quiet. For nearly 2 years, they continued appearing on Storage Wars together, pretending everything was fine. Fans had no idea. When Storage Wars returned from a 2-year hiatus in 2021, Brandy and Jared came back too, but something was different. They barely interacted on camera. When they did, it was tense. Brandy would make bitter comments. Jared would respond defensively. It was clear they weren't together anymore, but neither of them officially confirmed it until the season 13 premiere in April 2021. "I'm not with Jared anymore," Brandy finally said on camera. "Just because me and Brandy aren't together anymore doesn't mean we can't go to an auction, but separately," Jared added. Brandy told the Dad Diary that being a single mom wasn't that different from when they were together. "I did a lot of it on my own anyway," she said. "I have them all the time. 24/7 they're here with me, so I have to navigate that." She also mentioned missing the scary dad voice in the background, implying Jared had been largely absent as a parent. In interviews, Brandy described the breakup as freeing. "I wasn't really allowed to have an identity for many, many years," she said during an appearance on Spirit Talk. "And so these last couple of years, I'm kind of coming into my own and figuring out who I am." But the tension between them wasn't just for show, and in April 2021, things got really ugly when the cameras stopped rolling. On April 30th, 2021, Brandy was at a bar in Orange County with friends when Jared showed up. According to multiple sources and police reports, a heated argument broke out. Brandy asked Jared to leave. Instead of leaving, he started shouting at her and her friends. Then, according to Brandy's account and witness statements, Jared shoved her. Twice. Police were called, but Jared had already left by the time they arrived. A few days later, officers followed up and interviewed Jared. He denied putting his hands on Brandy, but based on Brandy's statement and witness accounts, the Orange County District Attorney charged Jared with 1 count of misdemeanor domestic violence battery. Neither Jared nor Brandy made public comments about the incident, but the fallout was immediate. A&E reportedly launched an investigation into Jared's future on Storage Wars. He hasn't appeared as a full-time cast member since season 12. Whether he was fired or left on his own accord was never officially explained. Brandy, meanwhile, returned to the show for season 13 and has been a regular cast member ever since. When asked about seeing Jared at auctions, she admitted it wasn't comfortable. "Luckily, I don't run into him that often," she told Distractify. "It's been about 3 years since we broke up, and I would like to say that it was a little nicer than it is, but it's not. It is a little tense, but we seem to get through it." By season 14, Brandy was back on her own, clearly relieved to be bidding solo. "I'm actually really excited that I'm out there by myself doing this," she said. In 2024, Brandy went public with her new relationship. She posted photos with Clifford Beaver, a real estate agent and bar owner, and seemed genuinely happy. Jared, meanwhile, has kept a low profile. His last Instagram post was in 2022, showing him with a woman named Rochelle Beckman. Whether they're still together is unclear. This is what happens when reality TV couples break up. The show wants drama, but real-life consequences don't make for entertaining television. Domestic violence allegations, custody arrangements, and the messy process of untangling shared businesses. That's the stuff that doesn't fit into a 22-minute episode with commercial breaks. The identity theft nightmare. Brandy's troubles didn't stop with the breakup. Being on Storage Wars made her famous, and that fame came with a seriously disturbing cost. In 2010, a guy named Hunter Moore created a website called Is Anyone Up? It was basically a revenge porn site where people would submit explicit photos of their exes to publicly humiliate them. Moore became infamous for it, getting featured on Anderson Cooper and throughout the media as one of the internet's most hated people. In 2012, Brandy discovered that Moore had posted a fake pornographic video claiming to feature her. He'd hired an actress who looked similar to Brandy, filmed explicit content, and then posted it online saying it was the Storage Wars star. He also posted fabricated explicit photos. Brandy started getting messages on Twitter from people who believed it was real. Strangers were sending her comments like, "Can't wait to see more of the video," and "Love the pics." According to her lawsuit, she suffered anxiety, physical illness, lost sleep, and was terrified the video would reach her children, friends, and family. She sued Moore for $2.5 million, citing violations of privacy laws, defamation, false light invasion of privacy, and more. The case seemed solid. Moore had literally fabricated pornographic content using her name and likeness to drive traffic to his website and sell merchandise. But here's the gut punch. When the judge ruled in her favor, he awarded her $750. For context, Brandy had asked for $2.5 million in damages. She got 0.03% of that. Moore was also ordered to remove the content and faced fines of $50 per day if he didn't comply, which would double after 2 weeks. Eventually, Moore and his programmer associate Charles Evans were both sentenced to jail for cybercrimes related to the website. But the damage to Brandy's reputation and mental health had already been done. For Brandy, it wasn't about the money, it was about clearing her name. But the incredibly small settlement sent a message about how seriously the legal system took her case. And for years afterward, fake content claiming to feature her continued floating around the internet, all stemming from Moore's original fabrication. The Dotsons dealt with their own identity theft issues too. In 2012, hackers broke into their home computer and stole their credit card and bank account information. The criminals made several huge purchases all at once, which triggered fraud protection. Fortunately, the Dotsons were able to see the hackers' instant messages about the heist through their computer and turned the screenshots over to authorities. The real cost: Barry Weiss left Storage Wars in 2013 after 4 seasons. He said he wanted to quit while the show was still popular and go back to being a professional slacker. He got his spin-off show, Buried Treasure, which lasted 1 season.
I bought this one on a hunch, because it kind of looked like someone left town quickly. So I'm hoping it may have left some good stuff behind. Wow, there's a lot of stuff here.
Then he did Storage Wars, Barry Strikes Back with his friend Kenny Crossley, which lasted 10 episodes. Then he just disappeared from TV for a while. In April 2019, Barry was riding his motorcycle through Los Angeles with his friend Jamie Robinson when a car backed out of a parking space without looking. They crashed into it. Jamie broke his knee, elbow, and wrist. Barry had it much worse. Serious chest and leg trauma, internal injuries, broken bones. Barry spent 2 months in the hospital. He had multiple surgeries on his back and femur. He was in intensive care for weeks. For a while, there were rumors that he died. He didn't, but the accident essentially ended his active participation in the show. He made a brief return for season 14 in 2021, showing up in his classic style with a 1939 Lincoln Zephyr, but he's been mostly absent since then. Dan Dotson had his own health scare. In 2014, he woke up at 1:30 a.m. asking weird questions in his sleep. When he woke again at 7:30 a.m., he complained of double vision. He'd suffered a double brain aneurysm. If you don't know, brain aneurysms kill a lot of people very quickly. Dan survived, but it was a close call. This is the reality behind Storage Wars. Real people suffering real consequences while making a TV show that pretends to be reality, but is actually carefully scripted entertainment. Cast members having their identities stolen, producers manipulating fines, and writing cast members' lines. A star nearly dying in a motorcycle accident. Another suffering life-threatening brain aneurysms. A beloved couple's breakup turning into domestic violence charges. And through it all, the show kept selling the fantasy that you too could show up at a storage auction, drop a few $100s, and walk away rich. But the truth is, most units are garbage. The interesting finds are often planted or moved between units. The cast members' reactions are scripted. And the real money, the $7 million safe discoveries, happen off-camera to people who immediately realize they've stumbled into something dangerous. So yeah, Storage Wars is fun to watch. The cast has great personalities, the reveals are entertaining, and it's satisfying to see people gamble on mystery boxes and occasionally strike gold. There's a reason the show ran for 16 seasons and spawned an entire genre of auction reality shows. But the next time you're watching someone crack open a storage unit and discover a valuable antique or a rare piece of memorabilia, remember that there's a decent chance producers put it there on purpose. The lines the cast members are saying might have been fed to them by writers. The auction you're watching might have been staged ahead of time. And the storage facility owner might be in on the whole thing. Reality television has never really been about reality. It's about creating entertaining narratives using real people in controlled situations. Storage Wars just took that formula and ran with it, manufacturing drama and discoveries while telling viewers it was all authentic. The real surprise isn't what people find in storage units. It's everything that happened off-camera. The lawsuit that exposed the staging. The cast member who made over $800,000 per season. The breast enhancement surgery allegedly funded by producers. The domestic violence incident that ended a fan-favorite couple's time together on the show. The identity theft that left one star fighting to clear her name for pennies in compensation. The near-fatal accidents and health scares that almost killed beloved cast members. And on top of all that, the fact that after lawsuits, admissions of staging, identity theft, domestic violence charges, and near-fatal accidents, people kept watching anyway. Because at the end of the day, we don't really care if it's fake. We just want to be entertained. And on that front, Storage Wars delivered, even if nothing about it was quite what it seemed. So, what are your thoughts? Let us know down in the comments section. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. Check out the next video that pops up on your screen. You never know what's next, you'll discover.